So settling in here, and you can begin by noticing the length of your inhalations and the length of your exhalations. Noticing the relative depth and the relative ease. And then if you notice that one phase of your breath feels a little longer or easier than the other, you'll turn your attention to the phase of breath that feels shorter. So gradually inviting, just by shifting your attention, that shorter phase to lengthen and match the longer. And then when your breath feels even, see if you can lengthen both phases of your breath. And if you're familiar with the practice of Oje Pranayama, this would be a good time to bring in your Ujjayi breath. So tongue resting lightly behind your top two front teeth, perhaps a slight lowering of your chin as you lift your soft palate, a slight lifting of your breastbone. You can hear that whispering sound in the back of your throat, echoing in your ears. Kind of almost sounds like you're holding a shell to your ear, like the sound of the ocean. We'll continue to breathe in this way. And then we can begin to maybe direct and manipulate our breath a little bit more. So continue to breathe with your Ujjayi Pranayama. But now at the top of your inhalation, pause and hold your breath full. And as you do your best not to contract your throat, but instead leave the glottis slightly open and just feel the sort of sense of resonance as you breathe into the center of your chest. And then you can exhale completely with Ujjayi sound. You'll inhale, bring breath and attention to your heart. And then pause on full without closing off your throat. Exhale, let the breath flow out. A few more breaths like this. This is a particular pranayama energetic exercise for Anahata chakra, the heart chakra. Breathing to that space with the sound of Ujjayi, pausing on full with your throat gently open. And then exhaling to circulate that heart energy through your whole body. So we'll take one more cycle of this breath. And then when you feel like it's time to move, even out your Ujjayi Pranayama. So bringing inhalations and exhalations back to be even, flowing one breath into the next, the whispering sound of Ujjayi Pranayama. And you can slide off your sitting prop. And we'll come to Anahatasana, heart chakra pose. So sliding to hands and knees under your hips, hands walk forward. You can take your hands to about the width of your mat and begin to melt your heart down towards the floor. You might reach your chin towards the mat, you might reach your forehead. Working here. We can continue to work with this sense of breath moving behind your breastbone in the center of your chest. With your next inhalation, you can walk your way upright. Let's walk our hands back, underneath shoulders, and with an exhalation, take yourself all the way back to an extended version of child's pose. So sitting back onto your heels, maybe even pressing with your hands, forehead can release to the mat. When it feels like time, you'll walk both hands over to the right side of your mat. You can put the palm of your left hand on the back of your right and reach back through your left hip. Nice. We'll inhale back through center. Take both hands over to the left. You can put the palm of your right hand on the back of your left as you reach back. inhale your way back to extended child's pose. And now as you exhale, round your way forward to a cat back. You can take your feet wide, elbows softly bend, inhale, flow through to Cobra. You'll exhale back through the cat back. And you'll inhale to extended child's pose. So exhaling, rounded cat back. Inhaling, wide-footed Cobra pose. Exhaling, rounding through the cat back. Inhale, extended child's pose. Find a couple of more rounds of this movement, flowing your spine forward and back. And the next time we come through to the wide-footed Cobra pose, let's hang out here. You can roll your shoulders back. It might feel good to sway a little side to side. It might feel good to lower a little with exhalation and to lift a little with inhalation. It might feel good to roll your head around a little bit. And eventually you can come all the way down to your belly. Let's place hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Press up to all fours. With your exhalation, tuck your toes, lift your knees, bent knee downward facing dog. So starting here, knees bent, let's think about tipping the sitting bones up a little bit. Widening sitting bones away from each other. Hollowing into your belly. And then eventually extending your legs. It might feel good to shift your hips side to side here. It might feel good to walk the dog. You can bend one knee, bend the other. Once more, it might feel good to turn your head side to side. So we'll spend maybe 3 more breaths exploring, finding movements that are interesting and pleasurable and helpful in your body as you warm yourself up. And then finally, settle into a sense of stillness, and we'll come back to the space behind the breastbone, space around the heart. See if you can breathe into that space once more, even while holding your downward facing dog. You may find that your pose lightens up a little bit. It becomes a little more spacious. Nice. From here, let's walk our feet forward. Slow stroll. You can roll heel to toe. Walking forward to a half forward fold. Release to a full forward fold. Little fingers can find the creases of your elbows. And you'll sway side to side. Lengthen one side of your waist. Lengthen the other. Eventually, you can hang your hands back down towards the floor. Let's bend our knees. Work our way all the way up to standing. Arms can reach up overhead. We'll keep our knees just a little bit bent here. Take your hands down by your sides and interlace your fingers behind you. So do your best to get your palms together. If this is not reasonable, you can let your wrists flex a little. If this is not reasonable, maybe you hang on to a strap or something behind you. We'll think about now taking the fronts of the shoulders slightly back, taking fists slightly away from the sacrum, and then press your fists down as you lift your heart, just any little bit more. So we're getting a length across the collarbones. We're getting a length along the length of the breastbone. Spaciousness in your upper chest. Let's take one more inhalation here. As you exhale, keep your hands interlaced. Bend your knees any little bit more, hinge forward, and pick your hands up and off your sacrum now. It might feel good to slide your shoulders up and down. Eventually, you'll let your hands hang back down towards the mat. Let's take a full exhalation. Inhale and lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Let's hold Ardha Uttanasana. While holding here, maybe fingers are on the floor, maybe fingers are on your shins, maybe fingers are on props out in front of you. Let's think about hugging up and into the belly, widening in the hips, taking hips back, taking heart and crown forward. Get as much distance as you can between the base of your skull and your hips. You can exhale, plant your hands, step your feet back, find your plank pose, and bend your elbows. Let your shoulder blades slide towards each other on your back. Come down to your belly. From here, let's bring our hands back behind us. You can lift shoulders, lift base of skull, lift arms. We're using triceps here. Take an exhalation. When you inhale, lift your upper inner thighs. Exhale here. Next inhalation, sweep your hands forward. Take an exhalation here. Take one more in-breath. Exhale, lower hands next to your ribs. We'll inhale to hands and knees. Exhale, press back to downward dog. We'll work on our downward facing dog for a couple more breaths. If there are some little adjustments you'd like to make, feel free to make those adjustments. Maybe check in with the placement of your hands. Check in with the placement of your feet. Consciously broaden your shoulders. Consciously lift your sit bones. And at the end of your next exhalation, you can bend your knees, look forward, move your feet towards your hands, walking or stepping or floating to a half forward fold and a full forward fold. Inhale, flow all the way up. As you exhale, knees bend a little bit, palms turn forward, cactus your arms. Elbows bend, maybe you can drop your hands back behind the elbows. Lift your heart any little bit more. You can inhale, extend your arms. Exhale and fold Uttanasana. Let's inhale, lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Plant hands, take our feet back and lower, maybe chaturanga this time. So you could come down to your knees, maybe come down to your belly. Maybe you come down and hover. Shoulders, elbows, hips, all the same height. Inhale, upward facing dog, hold the back bend. So if upward dog is a little much, thighs on the floor, elbows bend. But maybe you can be here, shoulders in line with wrists, drawing your upper arms back and drawing your chest forward and through as you lengthen your crown skyward. Next exhalation will take you through to downward facing dog. And again, you can adjust position of hands and feet. Let's take one more breath in our downward facing dog. And from here, you can bend your knees. Look forward, walk or step or float. Feet to hands, half forward fold. Full forward fold as you exhale. Let's inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, clasp your elbows now. Draw your elbows and upper arms back. Then you can change the cross. And again, draw your elbows and upper arms back. You'll inhale, extend. Exhale, fold Uttanasana. Let's inhale, halfway lift. Plant hands, take your feet back through Vinyasa. Lower, upward dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. So now in your downward facing dog, let's take left foot a little forward, a little to the midline. Left heel will touch down as you lift your right foot. Straight up and back to start. And then stack your hips, bend your right knee. Use your right hamstrings, use your right glutes. Pull that heel in towards your hip. Let's take one more breath here. As you exhale, square your hips. You'll take right knee to the floor underneath your right hip, and it's reasonable to angle your shin out to the side here. We'll take a left foot to the mat, take left hand up, and then find a side bend. You're rooting down into what's on the floor, reaching forward with your left hand, really extending in the left side of your body. As you inhale, left hand can reach up. Shift your weight now, float your left foot. This could be your pose. You could add a back bend. You can bend your left knee, reach back, grab your ankle. Maybe kick your foot into your hand as you roll the shoulder back. A little extra challenge to your balance, look up. Beautiful, you can inhale and release. Exhale, hand and foot back down to the mat. Pick your right knee up, press back, and make some circles in your right hip. You can circle around one way. You can circle around the other. We'll release right foot down, just a little forward and a little to the midline of where it would be for regular down dog. And left foot can lift. From here, we stack left hip over right, bend left knee, and you're using the back of your left leg here. Use your hamstrings, use your glutes. Let it help to open up the front of your left hip. We can take one more inhalation here. As you exhale, you'll square. We'll take a left knee just down underneath left hip, maybe angling shin out to the side for balance. Right foot lines up with left knee, and we can lift the right arm, side plank. And then take the side bend in side plank. Reach your right hand forward, opening up the whole right side of your body. If you're in the side bend, you'll inhale, return to regular side plank, and we'll float the right foot. This might be your pose. You could add a back bend by bending your right knee, grabbing your right foot, kick your right foot into your right hand. And you could add a challenge to your balance by looking up. Nice. Inhale, release your foot. Exhale, hand and foot back down to the mat. We'll press back. Left leg can extend and then circle in your left hip. Circle one way, circle the other. Eventually we release left foot back down to the mat. Let's take a full inhalation, full exhalation in down dog. And bend your knees, look forward, walk or step or float, feet to your hands. Half forward fold, full forward fold as you exhale. We'll inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, take your hands to your back. So I'm gonna put the heels of my hands at the top of my SI joints, fingers pointing down. I like my feet about the width of my hips for this. You might like to be a little wider or a little narrower. Bend your knees slightly. We'll take the sides of the pelvis forward. We'll hug belly in and start to lift heart up and away from the top of the pelvis. We're getting length and extension in the upper back, taking base of the skull back. You can bend your knees, slide your hips forward, lift your heart. Bend your knees, slide your hips forward, lift your heart. Maybe look up, maybe look back. To come out of this pose, activate your legs. Hug your inner thighs in, that will zip up the front of your body. And as you exhale, you can return to a standing forward fold. We'll inhale and lift halfway up. Plant hands, take feet back through Vinyasa, Chaturanga. Upward dog. Exhale to downward dog. Let's lift the right foot up and back. And twist hips, bend right knee. As you exhale, square, take your right foot to the outside of your right hand. We'll slowly lower left knee to the mat, move down into lizard pose. So we're really shooting for some extension in the left hip. Maybe your elbows start to soften down towards the floor. We're hugging right knee in towards right shoulder. If your knee wants to turn out to the side and it's really challenging to keep it tracking over your toes, let your toes turn out a little bit so you can protect your knee joint. We'll take a few breaths here. And as you inhale, walk your way back upright. Let's take right foot in line with right hip. Slide forward and start to press the right thigh away. As you hug your belly in, draw your lower ribs back, getting even more extension in your left hip. If you want a little more, left arm can reach up. If you want a little more, you can start to reach your right hand down towards the floor beside you. As you inhale, pick yourself back up. You can exhale, hands back to the mat. Step it back through Vinyasa. Ekapada if you want it. You could leave your right foot off the mat. Nice. If your right foot is lifted, place it back on the floor. We'll inhale, lift the left leg. Square, stack your hips, bend your knee. Exhale, square. We'll take left foot to the outside of left hand. Right knee slides down to the mat. So we're looking for extension in the right hip, deep flexion in the left. Maybe elbows start to work their way down towards the floor. We're melting forward here. And you'll notice that your left knee kind of wants to pop out to the side. So hug it in to the best of your ability, but you can also have a little negotiation with the position of your foot. So if it's safer for your knee to turn your toes slightly out, go there. Beautiful. We'll walk back up onto the palms of our hands. Now bring your left foot back in to track your left hip. Knee sliding straight out over your middle toe. You can place your hands on that front thigh and press it away. This might be quite enough stretch for your right hip. Maybe your right arm wants to reach. This is a little bit deeper. Maybe your left hand reaches for the mat. This is a little deeper still. Nice. As you inhale, you can reach both hands up. Exhale, take your hands down to your mat. You'll tuck your right toes, lift your right knee, step back, and flow through your vinyasa. Maybe even ekapada. You could leave your left foot off the floor if you like. We'll return to downward facing dog. And take a few breaths here. So holding in downward dog, pay attention to how your shoulders feel. When we get to our peak posture, we're headed towards upward bow or Dhanurasana for those who want to go there. The arm position, shoulder position in down dog, and the shoulder position in upward bow are very similar. So even though we're in more or less a forward fold here, let's think about broadening across the shoulders, broadening across the chest, pressing into our arms. At the end of your next exhalation, you can bend your knees, look forward, feet can move to your hands. Half forward fold on the in-breath. Full forward fold as you exhale. We'll inhale and rise, come all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands behind you. This time we'll make fists. Feet, again, about the width of your hips or a little bit wider if that feels better. And your fists will go on your SI joints. So this will be a slightly deeper back bend than our previous variation. If you'd like to come back to this one, you can come here. If you'd like to return to this one, you can come here. But maybe fists on your SI joints, knees bending a little, shoulders rolling back, sides of the pelvis drawing forward, and lengthening and lifting. Rooting into your feet as you lift up and over the back of your heart. To come out of the back bend, activate your legs. Use your legs to lift you up. Inhale to reach. Exhale to fold, Uttanasana. We'll inhale, halfway lift. Plant hands, take our feet back through Vinyasa, Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Vasisthasana, side plank. So you can put your right hand slightly forward of your right shoulder, outer edge of your right foot to the floor, maybe left foot in front, maybe left foot stacking. If neither of those are okay, right knee can be on the floor. So coming here, stacking one foot on top of the other if you can, and we have a 90-degree angle here between your right arm and the right side of your body. Maybe there's a side bend. Maybe the top foot floats. And exhale, release your foot back to the mat. Take it through a vinyasa, chaturanga. Upward dog. Exhale to downward dog, other side. So again, left hand is slightly forward of your shoulder. You can place the outer edge of your foot on the floor, inner edge of your right foot in front if that's helpful. Stack it on top if that feels better. Maybe even back to your left knee. So working here, tucking the shoulder blade under, 90-degree angle here between arm and side of the body. Reach up, maybe reach forward, maybe float the top foot. Beautiful. You can take your foot down, take your hand down, flow through vinyasa if you so desire. Child's pose is beautiful too. And we'll come back to downward facing dog. One more breath in your down dog. Well, again, bend knees, look forward, feet move to hands. Half forward fold, full forward fold as you exhale. Inhale to rise. Exhale, hands back behind you again, and you have all sorts of options now. So we have this option, kind of gentle, fingers pointing down. We have this option, fists on SI joints, that's a little bit more intense. A little more intense still is to point your fingers up. Feet about the width of your hips or a little wider, knees slightly bent, rooting down through your feet as the sides of the pelvis come forward, and lengthen your heart up, lifting up and over the back of your heart into the back bend. Root down to lift up. To come out of the pose, again, activate your legs, bring yourself upright. Inhale to reach arms up overhead. Exhale to fold Uttanasana. Let's inhale, halfway lift. Plant hands, step or float through Vinyasa. Chaturanga, upward dog. Exhale to downward dog. Inhale, forward to plank, and slowly lower to your belly. Shalabhasana variation, locust pose variation. My kids call this shark pose, jaws pose. We'll take our hands back behind us and fingers interlace. So starting here, chin or forehead on the mat, lifting the front of your shoulders, lift your fists, reach them up. And then lift your shoulders, keep reaching your fists up. And then lift your legs, keep reaching your fists up. Stay with your breath, inhaling, get buoyant. Exhale, get stable. Nice, one more inhalation. Exhale and lower. We'll bring hands next to our ribs. Inhale, up to plank or all fours. Exhale, back to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, you can root down through your left foot, lift your right, and then stack your hips and bend your knee. Now consider flipping this over into wild thing. You're tucking your left shoulder under, right hand will get light, you'll pivot on your left toes, right foot touches down, and you lift, extending the whole top side of your body. As you exhale, flip it back over. You can release your right foot down to the mat, and we'll do the other side. Lift your left and twist your hips and bend your knee. Maybe this is your back bend. Maybe you trust yourself. Take your left hand off the mat, pivot, touch your left foot down, and you lift deeper into the back bend. Exhale, flip it back over. And release your left foot down to the mat. From here, let's inhale forward to hands and knees. And then place the backs of your hands on the floor in front of your knees. So you can sit down, backs of your hands on the floor, fingers will point towards each other. And it might feel good to kind of turn your elbows forward and back here. It's a little release for your forearms. Maybe you can start curling your fingers in towards your palms. Beautiful. Let's release that. and place our palms underneath our shoulders. So now turn your right fingers out to the right and start to rock over to the right and back. Over to the right and back. Over to the right and back, and then spin your fingers back towards your right knee. Elbow will be a little bit bent. Probably the heel of your hand will not be touching down here. That's okay. In fact, it's preferable so you have somewhere to reach into. We can release that hand. Let's switch. Left fingers turn out to the side. We'll rock over to the left and back, and over to the left and back. And one more time, rock over to the left. One more time, rock back to center. Spin your fingers back. So now fingers pointing towards your left knee is or left elbow, pardon me, is unlocked. Elbow just a little bit bent. And the heel of your hand is probably not on the floor. That's okay. Nice. Releasing that. Sit back on your heels now. We'll take the backs of our hands to the floor next to our shins. Press down and traction your wrists forward as you slightly bend your elbows back. So one more wrist release. Nice. You can peel your hands up and off the floor, circle your wrists, shake your hands out. That was a lot of work in our hands. From here, moving into Dolphin Pose. So let's take elbows more or less under your shoulders, maybe a little closer together. You can interlace your fingers, bring your palms together, press into the little finger side of your wrist, lift your knees, lift your hips. And maybe here we start to walk our feet closer to our elbows. Keep lifting your sitting bones up. Let's try for 2 more breaths in our dolphin. And you can walk your feet back, settle knees back down to the floor, settle hips back down to heels, and give yourself a few breaths of rest. All right, so we'll head back to our Dolphin Pose. This time keeping our feet back a little bit. Dolphin push-ups, and be very aware of how your shoulders feel here. If your shoulders don't feel stable, if it feels a little awkward or a little risky, please feel free to do these on your knees. If it feels reasonable though, elbows under shoulders, reaching your feet back, and then the inhalation is here, moving your heart forward towards your thumbs. And the exhalation is here, pressing back to dolphin. Inhale and exhale. This is too much. You can always be here. Inhale and exhale. Exploring shoulder movement and shoulder stability along with core strength. Let's try one more. You can lower your knees, sit back on your heels, and rest in your child's pose. Oh. Somewhere in your next few breaths, you'll walk your hands forward once more. Come back to all fours, flex your feet, tuck your toes, take it to downward facing dog. We'll inhale, lift the right foot. You can shift forward, right foot between your hands. Let's pick this up into a high lunge. And then take your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, lift your left thigh towards your palms. Heart will lift, maybe gaze lifts. Beautiful. Try 2 more breaths here. As you exhale now, hinge forward. So you're lifting in your left thigh, right knee slides out to the side just slightly. Right shoulder towards right inner knee. Right ear towards right inner ankle, and fists reaching up towards the sky. Beautiful. Inhale, release. We'll come all the way back up. Exhale, hands reach for the mat and flow through vinyasa. Ekapada if you want it. You can leave your right foot off the floor. Let's exhale, right foot back to the mat. Inhale, left foot lifts. Shift forward, high lunge. Reaching through your right heel, lifting through your arms, hands come back behind you, fingers interlace. And if you can remember how you interlaced last time, put the other forefinger on top. It probably will feel pretty strange. There's one way we habitually interlace, and there's a way that feels a little odd. Do it the odd way. We'll roll heart open, lift back thigh. As you exhale, you'll lift your hips, hinge forward. We're taking left shoulder to our left inner knee. Left ear towards left inner ankle, fists reaching for the ceiling. You can inhale, release your interlace. Exhale, flow through vinyasa, ekapada if you want it. Left foot can stay lifted. Release your left foot back down to the floor. Let's inhale forward to hands and knees. Sit back on your heels and take your arms out to the side. So reaching your arms out, working internal and external rotation in your shoulders now. Nice. The next time you come into external rotation on the right side, take your right arm up by your ear, bend your elbow, hand comes towards the base of your neck. Left hand now will encourage your right elbow back in towards the midline, and you'll notice that your right shoulder blade moves. The whole shoulder blade swings out to the side. It's called an upward rotation. And then this tip of the shoulder blade lengthens up towards your elbow. We'll give ourselves a few breaths here. As you inhale, you can release your right arm, take your left arm into external rotation. Left arm reaches up, bend your elbow. We've got this whole shoulder blade swinging wide. Upward rotation or lateral rotation. You can take your right hand to your left elbow, draw it towards the midline, lengthen from tip of shoulder blade up to your elbow. Nice. We'll inhale and release. Exhale, let your hands come back down. Setting up for downward facing dog. Let's inhale and lift the right foot. You can stack your hips, bend your knee, flip it into wild thing if you like. And if you flipped to the wild thing, flip it back over. We'll take a breath. Exhale, step forward for high lunge. You can inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, take your hands back. Inhale to your back bend, lift the back thigh. Exhale, bow forward. Hips lift, hug your belly in, hug your legs in. Release your hands. We'll take our hands to the floor, maybe to the inside of the right foot. Some of us might tuck this right arm underneath to the outside of the right foot and bow deeper. Some of us might want to take this into a hand balance. If you'd like to go there, we work right shoulder under the right leg. Hips will stay high. Elbows bend, almost like you're doing chaturanga. Right leg extends out to the side. And we float. If you have the space to work with and you're in the hand balance, maybe you can hop your right foot back and flow it through vinyasa. That could be risky with end tables around, so be aware of furniture. We'll inhale, left foot up. Stack hips, bend knee, maybe flip it into wild thing. And if you're in wild thing, flip it back. Three-legged down dog, shifting forward to high lunge. Pick it up. Hands come behind you. You're lifting your right thigh towards your palms. Exhale to bow, bowing to the inside of your left leg. So pose could stay here, but maybe you can release your hands to the mat. Our hips are staying high. Maybe your left hand can come to the outside of your left foot. Maybe you can hook your left knee over your left shoulder. Elbows will bend, left foot extends out to the side, and you could float. If you're in the hand balance and you have the space to work with, consider taking left foot back first. Exhaling back to downward facing dog. Let's inhale through to wide knee child's pose. Hips drop back. Maybe make a pillow for your head with your arms so you can rest completely. So somewhere in your next breath or two, start to make your way back up to kneeling. And we'll shift our hips over to one side, take feet out in front, and roll down onto our backs. You'll find your way down to your back, fingers behind your knees, roll down. Setting up for bridge pose. So make sure your knees are hip width apart. And that is when you look at your thigh bones, they're parallel to each other. Your feet should be the width of your hips as well. And your hands are down by your sides, feet are parallel. Let's take an exhalation here, hug belly in, and let your hip creases be deep. Heads of your femurs are dropping to the back of the hip sockets, they're dropping wide. And you can lift here, use your heels a little bit, use your hamstrings. As you lift, reach your knees forward. It's not so much a tucking of the tail as it is a floating up of the pelvis and a lengthening of your hip creases. Maybe you rock from one arm to the other, tuck your arms underneath you. Maybe you interlace your fingers and press the little finger side of your wrist into the mat. So checking in with where you feel the weight in your feet. The tendency here is for the knees to go wide and to roll onto the outer edges. You want to activate your legs, press into the bases of your big toes, and it's almost as though you're trying to slide your feet away from each other on your mat. You can exhale, release your hands, lower. Hug your knees into your chest, draw some circles, rock them in and out, whatever feels good. And we'll come back to our bridge pose. This time you might repeat the same variation we just did, or you might consider using your hands as a shelf to support your hips. So maybe coming into supported bridge, planting into your feet, deepen your hip creases, belly hugging in, press with your feet, lift your hips, sides of the pelvis floating up. You can rock from shoulder to shoulder. And maybe you're here, fingers interlaced. If you'd like to move into the supported bridge, you'll lift your heels, get your hips a little higher, and then put the heels of your hands on your SI joints, fingers wrap around the sides. So tucking elbows in. From here, drop your heels by dropping your thigh bones back to the back of your hip sockets. Stay grounded in your shoulders by pressing firmly into your feet. You can release this pose, roll down to your back. Once more, when your sacrum hits the floor, you can hug your knees, rock them in and out, draw circles. So we've got 2 more back bends left. At any point, you are welcome to simply rest on your back with your knees leaning in towards each other. Or if you had a support for your seat when you were at the beginning of our practice, you could come into this variation of a back bend and just hang out here if things are getting a little intense. If you'd like to go for a few more rounds of bridge and variations, you can join me here, bringing your feet back parallel, hands down by your sides, lifting into your bridge, walking shoulders under, making that shelf for your hips. Drop your heels down, and now press firmly into your left foot, hug your right knee into your chest. Maybe extend your right foot to the ceiling, keep pressing into your left foot. And you can release your right foot back down, press firmly into your right foot,
Hug your left knee in, and then extend your leg. Reach the ball of your foot for the ceiling. You can bend your left knee, release your foot back down to the mat. Roll back down onto your back, and once more, find your counter pose. Knees could hug in, you can rock side to side. Happy baby pose might feel good. We'll do one more set of back bends. Maybe you're headed back to any of the previous variations. Maybe you're headed to Urdhva Dhanurasana, possibly Ekapada Urdhva Dhanurasana. So Urdhva Dhanurasana is upward bow. And for upward bow, we're going to place our hands just above our shoulders, fingers pointing toward the shoulder. We want this sense of the shoulder wrapping around. So we have the upward rotation of your shoulder blade. You'll take a moment to reach your elbows behind you and then hug them towards each other and then plug in from elbows to shoulders. As you exhale, hug your belly in, press into your feet, lift your hips. Extend your arms. Crown of your head would lightly brush the floor, very lightly. Reposition your hands. Hug your elbows in, extend your arms. So working here, maybe you play with lifting your heels, getting your hips a little higher. Maybe you play with shifting weight, hugging your right knee in, and reaching up. Shifting weight, hugging the left knee in, reaching up. Beautiful. When you're ready to exit upward bow, tuck your chin, come down on your upper back and the back of your head. And once more, hug your knees. Rock them in and out. Draw circles. Find the movements that feel good. Let's all find our way to happy baby pose. You can take your knees towards your shoulders. Soles of your feet to the sky. Reach up, grab your feet, outer edges, and pull down. Drop your shoulders, drop your knees. It might even feel good to rock a little side to side as you pull slightly more on one foot and then pull slightly more on the other. Eventually, we'll bring our knees back together, arms out to the side. Drop your knees to the floor on the right side of your mat. Inchworm your shoulders a little to the right. See if you can let your left shoulder drop down as much as possible. Recline twist. And you can inhale back through center. Exhale, knees drop to the left. You'll inchworm your shoulders over to the left a little bit. And you can inhale back to center. Hug your knees in and take 3 deep breaths here. When you're ready, you can drop your feet down to the floor. Take them wide. Let your knees drop in towards each other. And take a few deep belly breaths here. And finally, as the time feels right to you, you can make your way to your Shavasana. Knees could stay bent, legs could extend. Find a position in which you're completely comfortable and completely supported. A place to allow your body to integrate all of these changes that we've made. This was a strong practice, lots of back bends, lots of movement of energy. And then you can let all of that take effect in your rest. You can notice too what your spine feels like. After all this mobility work that we've done, all of this release of energy, what does it feel like? In fact, the primary energy channel of your body, your Sushumna, is the energy body analog of your spine. It runs along the front of your spine. And with the release of our spines, we release and move energy through Sushumna. You can notice what that feels like. Maybe noticing breath, noticing sensation, noticing where your attention is drawn. Maybe noticing the circulation of energy through your body. The subtle movement all the way to the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And now gently, disturbing your relaxation as little as possible. Once more, expand your breath, and we'll maintain this awareness of breath along the length of the spine first. Inhaling from top to bottom. Exhaling from bottom to top. And then allow the energy of your breath to expand out from that central channel through the rest of your body, radiating out to the tips of your fingers, to the tips of your toes, soles of your feet to the crown of your head. It might even feel like vitality is radiating off the surface of your skin. And eventually, when the time feels right, bring back some movement. Fingers and toes can wiggle, hands and feet can move, arms and legs can reawaken. Gradually come back to life. And eventually, you'll find your way over to one side. And then use the strength of your arms to help yourself up. Come up to a comfortable seat. And noticing once more your breath, the sensations in your body, the state of your mind. Let's turn our arms out to the side, palms up. Slowly float your arms up overhead. It's like you're gathering up all of the life force that surrounds you. And as you exhale, bring that all down to your heart. Anjali Mudra. One hand against the other, thumbs at your breastbone. And let's close with the sound of Om. You are welcome to join me in the chant if you wish. You are welcome to sit and listen if that feels better to you. If you'd like to join, we'll inhale and begin. Thank you all for joining me in this afternoon's practice. Have a marvelous rest of your day. Namaste. Nice work.